So hello everyone. The next topic which we will be discussing is about the blood. So what do you understand by the blood? We all hear that blood is a body fluid which is present in humans and other animals. So the blood delivers necessary substances such as nutrients and oxygen to the cell, and it transports metabolic waste products away from those same cells. So if we talk about vertebrates, then vertebrates, it is composed of blood cells which is suspended in the blood plasma. So there are various components of the blood and there are various types of blood cells. Now in this, basically we will be discussing that what is blood, what are the various components, and how it is important, what is the function of the blood. So blood, what is blood? So blood is one of the most important components of the life. Almost any animal that possesses a circulatory system, they have blood. From an evolutionary perspective, blood was speculated to have risen from a type of cell that was responsible for the process of phagocytosis and nutrient. So billions of years later also, the blood and the circulatory system have drastically helped the evolution of more complex life forms. So blood blood is a fluid connective tissue that consists of plasma, blood cells. There are two types of blood cells, that is the red blood cells and the white blood cells and the platelets. It circulates throughout the throughout our body and deliver oxygen and nutrients to various cells and the tissues. It makes up about 8% of our body weight. So 8% of our body weight consists of blood. If we talk about an average adult, they possesses around 5 to 6 liters of the blood. So this is what the blood is. Now there are various components of the blood. Now what are the components of blood? The components of blood are plasma, red blood cells, white blood cells and platelets. Now what are these? We will be discussing that also. So first we will talk about is the plasma. So plasma is the liquid state of the blood and it can be contributed to plasma as it makes approximately about 55% of the blood. It is pale yellow in color and when separated, so when it is when it gets separated, it consists of salts, nutrients, water and enzymes. So these are some of the constituents or some of the factors which consist of the plasma. So blood plasma, they also contains important proteins and other components which is necessary for the overall health. So blood plasma transfusions are given to patients that are having the liver failure and the life-threatening injuries. So the plasma is given to those people. Next we will talk about is the red blood cells. So the term red blood cells, which means RBCs, the red blood cells are red in color as the name suggests. So why they are red in color? They are red in color because of a hemoglobin, that is a protein which is present in them and that gives the red color to the cells. Now from where they are produced? So they are produced from the bone marrow and they primarily carry the oxygen to the body and carbon dioxide away from it. So this is the main function of the red blood cells. The next we will talk about is the white blood cells. So white blood cells, they are responsible for fighting various foreign pathogens. For example, they can be bacteria, they can be fungi, they can be viruses that enter our body. So they circulate throughout our body and they originate from the bone marrow as well. So they also originate from the bone marrow. The next is the platelets, which is also a component of a blood. So they are tiny disc-shaped cells and they regulate the blood flow when any part of the body is damaged, thereby aiding in fast recovery through clotting of the blood. So these all are the components of the blood. So next we will discuss is about the types of blood cells, that is the red blood cells and the white blood cells. So red blood cells, they are the biconcave cells and without nucleus in humans, and they contain the iron rich protein which is called the hemoglobin. So the red blood cells, the color of the red blood cells is red in color because of the presence of the hemoglobin. And if we talk about the white blood cells, then they are the colorless blood cells because they do not have the hemoglobin present in it, and they are further classified as granulocytes and agranulocytes. This is a blood vessel which is consisting of various components of the blood as well. So we have shown that there are neutrophils, there is a plasma. We have discussed plasma as well, that it is a liquid state of the blood that can be contributed to plasma as it makes about 55% of the blood. Then we have red blood cells. Now the red blood cells have further been divided, and the white blood cells also been divided into further categories, and these are platelets. So these are all the components of the blood which are being shown here. So we will be discussing red blood cells in detail, that what are red blood cells. So red blood cells, as we have seen in the previous diagram as well, they are biconcave cells and without nucleus in humans. They are known as erythrocytes. That is known as erythrocytes. So RBCs, they contain the iron rich protein which is called the hemoglobin. So because of the hemoglobin, the blood is red in color. So it was being discussed in the previous slide as well, that because of the hemoglobin, the presence of hemoglobin, the color of the blood appears red in color. RBCs, they are the most copious blood cells, and they are produced by the bone marrow. So they are produced by the bone marrow. So the production or the site of production for RBCs are the bone marrow. The main function of the red blood cells is to transport the oxygen from and to various tissues and the organs. So this is the main function of the red blood cells. Next is the white blood cells, which is also called as the leukocytes. So they are colorless blood cells, and they are colorless because they do not have the presence of hemoglobin in it like the red blood cells have, and they are further categorized into two parts, that is granulocytes and agranulocytes. Now WBCs mainly contribute to immunity and the defense mechanism. Types of WBCs that we have discussed, that they are granulocytes and agranulocytes. Now what are these? So these are all the types of blood cells which we will be discussing. So the granulocytes, they are the leukocytes with the presence of granules in their cytoplasm, and these granulated cells, they include the eosinophil, basophils and the neutrophils. So these are the three types which we will be discussing. Now, what are eosinophils? Eosinophils, they are the cells of the leukocytes which are present in the immune system. What they're responsible for? They're responsible for compacting infections in the parasites of the vertebrates, and the control mechanism which is associated with allergy and asthma. And these cells are very small granulocytes, and they are produced in the bone marrow as well, and it makes about 2 to 3% of the whole WBCs. And these cells, they are present in high concentration in the digestive tract. So these cells, they are present in high concentration in case of the digestive tract. The next is the basophils. So they are least common of the granulocytes, and they range from about 0.5 to 1% of the WBCs. The eosinophils consist of 2 to 3%, and the basophil consists of 0.5 to 1% of the WBCs. So they contain a large cytoplasmic granules, and they play a vital role in mounting a specific non-immune response to pathogens, allergic reactions by releasing histamine and dilates the blood vessels. So this is the function of the basophil. These cells, they are best known for their role in asthma and they result in inflammation also. So this was about the basophil. The next we will discuss is about the neutrophils. So what are neutrophils? Neutrophils, they are normally found in the bloodstream and they are predominant cells which are present in the pus. So they are the cells which are present in the pus and they contribute to about 60 to 65% of the WBCs with a diameter of about 10 to 10 to 12 micrometers. The neutrophils, they help in the destruction of bacteria with the lysosomes and they act as a very strong oxidant. So this was about the granulocytes and the three types of granulocytes which we have discussed. Now the agranulocytes. So agranulocytes, they are the leukocytes with the absence of the granules. So they do not have the granules present in their cytoplasm. They are further divided into two parts, that is the monocytes and the lymphocytes. So what are monocytes? These are the cells which usually have large bilobe nucleus with a diameter of about 12 to 20 micrometers. The nucleus of the monocyte is generally of half moon or kidney shape and it occupies about 6 to 8% of the WBC. So it occupies about 6 to 8% of the WBCs. The most important function of the monocyte. So the most important function of monocytes are to migrate into tissues and they clean up the dead cells, protect against the bloodborne pathogens and they move very quickly to the sites of infection in the tissues. So this is the monocyte. Now if we talk about lymphocytes, they play a vital role in producing the antibodies. Their size range from about 8 to 10 micrometers and they are commonly known as the natural killer cells. What is the role? The role here is that they play a major role in the body defense. And these white blood cells, they are colorless and they formed in the lymphoid tissue. That is why they are known as the lymphoids. So as the name suggests, where they are formed in the lymphoid tissue and that is why they are known as the lymphocytes. Now lymphocytes have also been further divided into two categories, that is the B lymphocytes and the T lymphocytes. So these cells, they play a very important role in the immune system and they're responsible for the humoral and the cell mediated immunity. Now what are the functions of the blood? So functions of the blood include the supply of oxygen to the tissues. So this was the first function, that the red blood cells, okay, that the red blood cells are. So because of the red blood cells, why the red blood cells are red in color? Because of the presence of the hemoglobin, and hemoglobin, they supply the oxygen to the tissues. Supply of nutrients like such as glucose, there is amino acids, fatty acids. So these are the supply of some nutrients through the blood. So they are dissolved in blood and they are bound to plasma proteins. Example, blood lipids. They remove the waste such as carbon dioxide, urea and the lactic acid. There are some immunological functions which include the circulation of the white blood cells and the detection of foreign materials by the antibodies. There is a coagulation, the response to a broken blood vessel, the conversion of blood from a fluid to a semi-solid gel to stop the bleeding. So that will also help in the stoppage of the bleeding. So this is what is happening. Now, the messenger functions, for example, they include the transport of hormones and the signaling of tissue damage. That is also the important function of the blood. They regulate the core body temperature. So the body temperature is also maintained by the blood and they also are involved in the hydraulic functions also. So these are all the functions of the blood. These are some of the references. Thank you.